Okay, let's talk about Princess Maker 2, a game that was like a dream of mine to play when I was 11. This game was the only one of its kind to come stateside. Though not officially, the company that translated it went under before it was published. But thanks, Soft Egg, if you hadn't translated this 90s Gynax game, many a gamer would have never had to suffer the troubles of fatherhood before their time. Shame it didn't make it off the ground like the Mindf Evangelion did. This game is part of a series of 5 games that also have an anime and like 4 spin-off titles, so this was a pretty big deal back in the land of the rising sun. Princess Maker 2 even got ported to the PS1, complete with a fancy makeover. Enough about companies and the follow-ups, on to the pseudo-celestial adoption game. When you start it up, you go through the task of naming and picking out birthdays, plus a blood type. Both the date you pick for your daughter to be delivered on and her blood type affect what kind of attitude she'll be giving you, so if you want to avoid difficulties, you should start looking up horoscope profiles and how Japanese blood types work. When you're done scratching your head over underlying stat features that would give a D&D player a headache, you get to watch an opening cutscene of just what fresh hell gets you your bundle of space debris. According to the lore, you're a wandering knight that runs across a kingdom being ravaged by a demon army. Apparently, the army was sent by the gods to punish the hell out of a king and queen who have led their citizens into behavior that the space giants have deemed sinful and downright abhorrent. Not really knowing what's going on, you sneak into the army's camp and take on Lucifer himself. Apparently Satan had nothing better to do than to take orders the Pantheon handed him. When bested, he decides that he's absolutely cool with packing up his shit and going right back home. After the ravaging is over, the local royalty beg you to settle down and help them to rebuild, even going so far as to hand you a house and provide you with an annual salary to thank you for saving them. Some indeterminate time later, Pantheon contacts you, and for some reason they decide to make you adopt a piece of space trash molded into a little girl. They tell you you're supposed to raise her to the best of your ability until she hits 18, wherein they plan on taking her back to heaven if she's suitable. As best I can figure, you're basically fostering one of their kids that they didn't feel like raising. I bet Zeus got this baby left on his doorstep or something. Anyway, as the game is named, you can raise your little bundle of joy up to be a princess somehow. But that would really be taking the game too literally. Not only can you make her a princess, you have 70 or so other endings that you can aim for. Pretty impressive for a game released in the early 90s. Sounds like it can't be that hard, right?
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong.
That annual salary I mentioned? It's $500 per year, and those dance classes your kid's been eyeing don't come cheap. In addition to that, you aren't allowed to do anything yourself to go out and raise money, so it falls to your space trash daughter to go out and make those fat stacks. Man, I'd fire the damn butler if he wasn't actually a slave or whatever. Making the kid work doesn't sound so bad to you either.
Wrong!
Working, while it may help up practical skills on your daughter's stat chart, will drain ones that you'll be fighting to get so your daughter can move in status upping social interactions at the castle. Not only that, but for the first handful of times you send that kid to work, it will be highly unlikely that she will bring any money back. Essentially, no matter how well you play this game, you're kind of screwed unless you get several randomized fortune events, and you better hope they're the ones that come with a wad of cash, because that baby they dropped in your lap is as expensive as hell to train. Now from now on, I'm going to be calling the normal way you play the game Ungrateful Mode. Why Ungrateful Mode? Because goddammit, you saved an entire f***ing kingdom from being eradicated, and all the king can do is pay you $500 a year? That's like a handful of pennies in this damn game! It's just completely and utterly f***ing ridiculous! I can't even— Anyway, sorry. Handout mode is so much more relaxing. You can send your daughter off to as many classes as you goddamn want. Well, as long as you manage her stress levels properly and she isn't a mouthy little tart, because if she runs away from you, and she will if she's stressed, she disappears for a whole f***ing month.
Hey, excuse me, princess.
Gameplay is broken down by the month, so you choose 3 weeks worth of activities that you can send her to. You can send her to classes, jobs, or you can even give her a week to herself. Or you can choose to give her a vacation, which rewards you with some, often awkward, vacation photos of your daughter frolicking about. Each month, you're also allowed to take a quick trip to the palace to chat with whoever you like. You can also choose to interact with your daughter in some manner, whether you're just chit-chatting or you try to bribe her into being less stressed with a small handful of cash. You can also scold her, but that shit never works when she's actually being a jerk. When the game hits September, you can either opt in to go to a kingdom-wide festival, or you can just choose to stay home and let your daughter sit around. Really, the Harvest Festival is where you can finally see what the stupid stats maintaining has been doing and whether or not you're doing badly as compared to characters in the game. If you manage to win the competition of your choosing, you'll be rewarded with money, and if you're in first place, you'll be given both cash and a special item. If your daughter becomes noticeably high in one stat, she can attract a great deal of attention, both good and bad. There are patrons of stats that may pay you a visit at any time that will give you boosts, or you may gain the interest of a rival that you will end up encountering at the yearly festival. If you get particularly skilled in either of the offensive stats, your space trash will get challenged to a fight in the street quite regularly. Conversely, if your daughter's morals stat is drained, something else will happen in the street. Your daughter will end up getting propositioned in the street by an old creep, and she'll agree to become his mistress. Granted, it gets you extra dough, but it can seriously screw up what ending you're going for. Unless you're shooting for the bondage queen or prostitute ones. Even if you're shooting to make your pride and joy a back alley delight, you still have a chance to hook her up with some sucker that she'll hopefully eventually marry. Generally, if your daughter has high social graces, she'll attract some wealthy older men that you have the choice of marrying her off to, or you can just refuse and take the gift of money they bring by. If your daughter is enough of a badass to go out into the west and fight her way to the dragon's stronghold, you can also marry her off to a little dragon lord by defeating him in battle. Apparently getting his ass beat is a turn-on of some kind. Then there's the young officer that shows up only in January. Get your kid to speak to him enough times and she'll be set for life, I guarantee it. Then there's two more options that are a bit tricky and a little awkward. One of which is that your kid will decide that the butler is totally her type. The other is that she decides you're her type. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. She can even marry the devil. Yeah, so there's that. Just moving right along. If you're lucky, the traveling merchant will stop by and show you his weird wares. These are chock full of stat uppers, most of which will end up being triggered in certain areas of the adventure maps. The Venus jewels are a good starting choice, since at every birthday your daughter has the sprite that lives in the pendant give her large boosts. In a similar fashion, a fortune teller will show up at random and offer to predict your daughter's future as it currently stands. Don't sweat it if it's early on and she comes and says your space debris is going to be doing the mundane. This game doesn't set jack shit in stone until her final birthday. Lucky for you, huh? Now, this game doesn't leave you totally without traditional game aspects. It actually throws you a bone and allows you to send your daughter off into the wilds outside the kingdom that are marked simply by compass directions. The adventure maps themselves are fairly simplistic, generally only consisting of a few branching paths with random encounters as you move around. The fighting system itself is like one you'd see in a Dragon Quest game, where you have the enemy's portrait presented in front of you with your standard 4 action options. There's very little that's unique about it, except for they do show the full board of your enemy's stats in addition to your own, and the odd option to speak to whomever or whatever you've encountered. If you're willing to meticulously plan your bundle of junk's life for 8 years, you'll be rewarded with one final cutscene. The big show of all your hard work. You better pray you didn't end up with a housewife. Overall, this game is pretty damn entertaining and is a good time killer if you need to blaze through an hour or two, as the game rounds out to be only about 3.5 from start to finish. If you like eccentric games, then I'd highly recommend Princess Maker 2 to you.